Hello, Reject Nation. It's Greg Alba here. What's your name?
You know it.
Raquel Kushnar is here. Rachel Cushing.
You invited me, remember?
Rachel Cushing is here, who you might have seen on the Schmodown. She is also on Twitter. She tweets a lot, always about God and how
Where does it come up
the
with this
Lord
stuff?
Jesus has saved her life in
Don't
all
listen
these
to him.
situations,
No.
and how she's aiming to be the next contestant on next season's Bachelor, and she believes she will win that final rose. Come on.
I worked on that, Joe.
It's
No,
called Yes and in improv. No buts. Yes and.
I'm not an improv person.
Well, that's why you do way worse than me on the Schmodown every time.
Sure I do.
So on the Schmodown, Rachel is very much known for being great in the Oscar category. It is wildly impressive how much she knows in that category.
you.
So I thought, Oscars are coming up.
They are my
Right?
favorite season.
Okay.
March.
March?
Crap, it's the first weekend in March, and I cannot remember the exact date. Forgive me.
What are you doing here? Well, Rachel and I are going to give our Oscar predictions for the interesting Oscar categories that people actually tune in for. That's right, guys. Best costume design.
I like that one.
I know, you probably like them all.
I do.
Is there a category you don't like?
No.
I don't even really watch the Oscars. I just wait for the list to come out. And I go, cool, good for them. We're going to do the big ones, though. The big ones that everyone waits through the 3 to 4 hour ceremony for. That's how they do it, right? They start with the supporting ones in the beginning.
Right, they hook you.
They hook you.
By doing one of the best supporting
Yeah.
actor or actress early on, and then, then all of your guild awards. And
Yeah.
your special effects and your music and sound editing and sound mixing.
Yeah, the very important ones.
Absolutely.
But they
they
the
save the
ones where
rest.
they're like, get them off on the speech. We'll work our way up this. So we'll take a turn each. Odds are Rachel is gonna be wrong. I know.
This is why he had me on. of
I'm gonna
course.
be
Make
right.
himself look better.
Yeah. I clearly will know who is better than her. For every category, we'll probably do something where here's who I'd want to win, but here's who I think will probably win. So we'll do it that way. And sometimes I'm looking at my list, and sometimes my probablys are gonna be the ones who I already want to win anyway.
That'd be convenient.
That'd be really, yeah, for me, yeah. What a convenient Oscar ceremony this was for me today.
If you're playing in a pool,
Yeah.
it could be.
Do you play in a pool?
I do, yeah.
Wow, what's the most you've thrown down in the pool?
Oh, my friends and I are cheap. We play $5 pools.
Oh, I can play with you guys. Yeah. And guys, keep in mind, opinions are all objective, so these are the only correct opinions. All right, so if you're upset, don't be. You're only mad at yourself. I'll kick this off since I know I'm probably the better guesser here. That's not a double negative.
Keep telling yourself that.
Best supporting actor.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Man, I really should have thought this through a little more now that I'm thinking about my list. For best supporting actor, I feel like the one who I would honestly want to win is Richard Jenkins. He's the one I want to win for Shape of Water. Even though I didn't think he was the best performance in Shape of Water. He's that actor who is always in these supporting roles that always shine, and I always love him in the movies he's in. And I thought he had a really nice, delightful, surprising, genuine performance that helped elevate the film. I thought it would be just, oh, it's cool Richard Jenkins is in here, but I wasn't expecting him to elevate the film. And he is such an important supporting character for Sally Hawkins in that movie itself. I would like him to win. Who do I think will win? I don't think Sam Rockwell will win. I'm honestly thinking Armie Hammer might have a shot.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think Armie Hammer might have a shot because the Oscars can be surprising.
True.
From the other categories. And Call Me By Your Name is very much an Oscar-type movie to me.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think Armie Hammer's great in Call Me By Your Name.
Oh, it's my favorite movie of the year, so you don't have to
That's
tell me.
right. It's your favorite movie of the year. Armie Hammer has that subtle performance, and people sometimes give flack to the Oscars when they give praise to gay performances. How do they put that?
Yeah.
But I think it's way more than a gay performance. The way I said it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful performance and a layered performance. Like when I saw that movie, I was with a group of people who were all going very back and forth. I think he was manipulative. I think he was just using him. I think he was messed up. And then I was in the audience going, well, no, I don't think that was the case. I think he was just, it's the 80s where the movie took place. It's confusing for him, and he has a line in there that shows that he's not exactly comfortable with being gay.
Yeah.
So I really appreciated the hell out of his performance. It's very authentic. I guess these are both who I would like to win, but I could actually see Armie Hammer winning. I'm just going to take a long shot there and say Armie Hammer.
I like your pick.
Okay, who are you? Who's your probably? Would you want, and who do you think will actually win?
Who I want is also actually in Call Me By Your Name, but that would be Michael Stuhlbarg. I'm not the first person to say this, but Stuhlbarg is the MVP of the Oscar season because he was in The Post, he was in The Shape of Water, and he was in Call Me By Your Name. But there is a scene at the end of Call Me By Your Name between father and son. Yes, you can call it like the most Oscar baity scene of the season of any movie, and you wouldn't necessarily be wrong. But it's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
It is delivered so well, and it's such tears in my eyes. I think Michael Stuhlbarg is just a phenomenal actor. I've always thought so. Just really excited that he's in so many great movies this season, and he hasn't really been popping up on, like, he wasn't nominated for the Golden Globes or the SAG Awards or anything, and I'm like, come on, people. I really truly think, and I mean, I think Armie Hammer is wonderful in the movie as well, but if I had to choose between the two to get a nomination, I really have my fingers crossed that Stuhlbarg gets a nomination, and if I got to choose, he would be the winner. As far as who I'm pretty sure is going to win, I think the clear frontrunner is Willem Dafoe for the Florida Project.
Really?
Yeah. Most of the critics circles gave it to him early on, and he's definitely been, in the Gotham Awards, I believe, and the Critics Associations, and Sam Rockwell won at the Golden Globes, but we all know the Golden Globes aren't the most predictive of award ceremonies, but it does sort of feel like it might be coming down to those two. And we still have a little ways for the Oscars and momentum changes. Of the two, I certainly would much prefer Willem Dafoe to win. I'm not the biggest Three Billboards fan. But
you just wait for that Armie Hammer speech because I like to say things.
I will give you full credit on Twitter. I will shout you out and I will be like, Greg got it right, Armie Hammer.
I put him in my list.
It's going to be Willem Dafoe.
I put him in the list of who I think will win. I honestly don't think he'll win. But I'm just going to say that in case he just surprisingly wins. I don't think he will, but I wanted to just put him there because it's my video and I'll do whatever I want. You're not editing it.
No, I'm not.
And guys,
I could.
You could, yeah. Best Supporting Actress. Who I'd like to win for this is Laurie Metcalf. I saw Lady Bird recently, and I absolutely adored her performance. And it might be because she reminded me of a lot of women I've grown up with. Because of that fact, I was like, such an authentic fucking performance. Because it's so real. It's that mother who's very judgmental, but you can also tell is very caring, but she plays off of every other actor well. Very in the moment. And I was very much moved by her performance because it's one of those performances where there's a lot of different things going on inside than what's going on the outside. And I think that's very hard to balance. Who I think will win will honestly be the Golden Globe winner, Allison Janney. I think she will actually win for I, Tonya. She gives a great performance in it, and it's kind of just seems like it's about time Allison Janney wins. And that's the vibe I'm getting. No?
She's won a whole lot of Emmys and Golden Globes.
I know, so it's time for the Oscars.
Is that how this works? Okay.
Mark my words, Rachel. I don't get nervous when you disagree with me.
I think you probably nailed both the top frontrunners. It's going to come down to those two.
It's going to come down to Allison Janney and Armie Hammer.
Or Allison Janney and Laurie Metcalf.
Oh, that's what you meant.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm really good at listening too, by the way. Yeah.
He's amazing at it.
Yeah, I'm amazing at it. Who are your picks?
Who I think will win is Laurie Metcalf. I think that Allison Janney's performance in I, Tonya is the louder one. Then not saying better or worse. I'm just saying the flashy one and the one that's sort of more memorable in its intensity and energy and things like that. But Laurie Metcalf's, like you said, is so internalized but so affecting.
Yeah.
And her chemistry with Saoirse Ronan and that mother-daughter dynamic is just so relatable and honest, and I just feel like Oscar voters are going to acknowledge that. I'm going to pick sort of a dark horse as who I would like to win. That's Holly Hunter from The Big Sick. I did not know what to expect for this movie.
Good choice.
It was just such a movie where I went in thinking, rom-com early in the year,
Yeah.
it'll be fine. And I came out like choked up. There's so much about this movie, the layers in this movie. It's not just about a relationship, but family relationships and religion and culture. And then this crazy thing happens to this couple who aren't even together when she gets sick, and then he has to make all these decisions. And then Kumail Nanjiani, I think is how you say his name.
Kumail Nanjiani, yeah.
The Big Sick was one of my biggest surprises of the year in terms of a movie. There's so many layers to it. It's about relationships, not just romantic ones, but family and culture. And I adored Kumail Nanjiani's relationship with his girlfriend's parents.
Yeah.
Because she's sick and in a coma, and so he has to relate to her parents, and he had broken up with her, and so the dynamic is brilliant. Ray Romano and Holly Hunter, but Holly Hunter just brought something extra to it where I really felt it, and I loved her chemistry with Kumail.
Wow, you might be right. That might be one of the most under-recognized performances.
It was an early in the year. Sometimes those fail to get remembered at Oscar season. So
and also it's genre too.
Yeah, the romantic comedies tend not to. But that's the thing. It's not just a romantic comedy.
Oh, it's so much more than that.
And I think it's made a lot of top 10 lists. And a lot of my friends loved it, and a lot of our friends loved it. So hopefully it gets remembered in some way at the Oscars. But I'd like that to be Holly Hunter for a nomination at least.
Impressive.
Thank you.
Impressive choice.
This is why you had me on.
Yes, but just know I'm right when you're wrong. Just know I'm right.
These are the rules of being on the show.
Best actor category. So curious to hear who you choose for this one. Who I think will win. The big question is not people. The big question. I feel like it's going to be a toss-up between Gary Oldman and Daniel Day-Lewis. It's so hard to pick because Gary Oldman has a bigger performance, has the performance with a lot of monologuing.
He plays Winston Churchill.
Churchill. It's a historical performance. He has all the makeup. It's a much bigger body language performance. But this is Daniel Day-Lewis, who's known to usually win the Oscar when it's a big role, and it's his last performance, supposedly. I don't know if they're going to do something, well, it's his last performance, so we might as well just give it to him, and Gary Oldman will have another shot later. I think between the two, who would probably win at this point is Gary Oldman.
You sound so sure about that.
I'm not sure about that because I can totally see the Oscars just giving it to Daniel Day-Lewis because he does a great job in Phantom Thread, but it's a more subtle performance and a performance that really builds a lot more, which in some ways is arguably a better performance. It's just a very different performance. Yeah. But I feel like for what Oscars are, that Gary Oldman will probably win for usually what the Oscars tend to lean towards. If this wasn't Daniel Day-Lewis's last movie, I would for sure be saying Gary Oldman. That's the difference here. Who I would like to win is someone who I just don't think is going to get nominated at all. This is just my personal pick of who I would really like to win. I talked a lot about him on this channel and this specific movie, but it's a real oddball. This is my dark horse.
Okay.
Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. For Logan.
I love that choice.
That is an actual Oscar caliber comic book leading performance in that film. And I don't really care if he's had 15 years of preparation for this movie, because it still takes place later and it's still an embodiment of a role and there's still so much life. I don't know, in terms of like the male leading performances, that was the one that really hit home hard for me. And I feel like it's the performance that should be more recognized, and I don't think he's even going to get nominated. It would be so cool if he did.
Oh my God, could you imagine?
It would be so cool if he did.
Him, or we didn't mention it, but Patrick Stewart in Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah.
Would have been...
Yeah.
I just wish that the comic book movies would get a little more love.
Especially when it's like that.
Yeah,
when it's that caliber.
Defied all convention for comic book movies.
Yeah, I would like to see Hugh Jackman get nominated, not for The Greatest Showman, but for that movie specifically, because I thought that was something very special. And I think it's even a more challenging job in some ways. When you have a character, because normally when you get a few movies in, you're kind of sick of a character.
True.
And the fact that this was his 10th movie, and it was his best Wolverine performance, says a lot. That's my prediction there.
Very good
who's
choice.
Oh, thank God, I did something. All right.
Well, I think you're spot on that it's going to come down to Oldman and Daniel Day-Lewis. My issue with both is that in some ways I think that if either one of them won, it wouldn't be necessarily because of their performance. I think it would be...
political.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Like Oldman, I mean, the fact that he hasn't won an Oscar and the fact that he's only been nominated once for Tinker Tailor is a travesty.
Yeah.
And the Oscars might want to be interested in making it up to him by giving him this win. I do think he was wonderful as Winston Churchill, but it's not even, I think, my top 3 favorite performances of the year. And Daniel Day-Lewis, again, because everybody is under the impression, and, you know, we always have to take it with a grain of salt, like, does he mean it when he says this is his last movie? Because if he does, Academy voters might be keeping that in the back of their mind. I mean, it would only be, his fourth
one.
Oscar.
Yeah.
You know.
Then he will have been the man who won the most Oscars.
Yes,
if he does,
would
right?
be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm also edging towards, I believe the Academy will give Oldman the Oscar. For me personally, I'm hoping, and I know it will not happen, Timothée Chalamet wins for Call Me By Your Name. Because I think it is the most honest performance I've seen all year. He just made me cry. That last shot, the credits shot of him.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, but it's the whole movie. This movie doesn't work if you don't believe him in every way. And he just struck me as any 18-year-old or 17-year-old young person who's falling in love for the first time feels. And this isn't even about gender. This is about anybody at that age in their life. This is how you feel, and your emotions run the gamut. And his face, it was so open and honest, and he was a revelation to me this year. And
I'm really surprised by how under-recognized it's getting, Call Me By Your Name.
I feel like it got early recognition from the critics circles, but like it was shut out at the Golden Globes. It hasn't won anything with the National Broadcast Critics Association Awards. But I feel like it's the kind of movie like a Moonlight, which was an early indie, lauded festival type of movie that sort of flew under the radar for a couple months when La La Land became the big talked about movie. Moonlight was under the radar, but then made a last second push towards the Oscar. Personally, I'm hoping Call Me By Your Name does a similar push.
I think it can.
I do. I think
because
so too. It deserves it.
Especially in terms of performances. I know we tend to go for like the Gary Oldman, like
playing Winston
huge,
Churchill.
you know. Call Me By Your Name, that type of performance is in some ways way more challenging because the camera just lingers on you, and it's about as being authentic as possible.
It's about relating
just life.
To that person.
Yeah.
You don't relate to Winston Churchill because we're never going to be a Winston Churchill type of person.
Because that's an observing type of performance.
Yeah.
That's a performance where you just observe life. Yeah, and I agree because he is amazing in that movie for sure.
Hey guys, Greg the editor here. So as I was editing this video, I realized we totally skipped over the Best Actress category in here, and I thought we should probably include that, or else I'll look sexist and I'll look degrading to Rachel, when that's not the case. My pick for Best Actress would have to be Frances McDormand. She's the one who I would want to win, and she's the one who I honestly think will win. Damn it, Todd! Here's Rachel's opinion.
I don't know how this happened, Greg. I feel kind of guilty and a sense of betrayal towards my own gender for forgetting the Best Actress category, especially considering how stacked it is this year. This is actually going to be one of the harder ones to predict. Right now, the two frontrunners seem to be Frances McDormand for 3 Billboards and Sally Hawkins for The Shape of Water, and I could honestly see it going either way. But as we've talked about in other categories, momentum is a big thing, and there's still a lot of time for the momentum to shift before the Oscar ballots are due, so I think Saoirse Ronan could also sneak in there, which just goes to show you that this is not an easy one to pick. But if I had to, I think the Academy's going to go with Sally Hawkins. I just think the critics have been behind her since day one. I know Frances McDormand has a huge following, and even though I didn't love the movie, I loved her in it. But her Golden Globe win does not assure her an Academy win. So I'm not really sold that she's going to make it all the way to the Oscars for the win for that one. In terms of who I hope wins, I honestly think that Meryl Streep is the best she's been in a long time in the post. I also, in terms of dark horse candidates go, really like Jessica Chastain in Molly's Game. For my pick, I'm going with another slight dark horse. I think she's guaranteed a nomination, but I don't think she's going to win this year, and that is Margot Robbie for I, Tonya. This is a truly fantastic, biting, funny, interesting, thoughtful film, and Margot Robbie just continues to prove that she is more than just a pretty face. She is so talented. She's got such great timing, especially comedic timing, and I was blown away by her performance in I, Tonya. Her chemistry with Sebastian Stan and Allison Janney and everything about it was stellar. So she's my dark horse pick, but I am thinking that Sally Hawkins is going to take this one. All right, let's get back to the main video, Greg.
Well, for Best Director, who I think will win, I think will be Guillermo del Toro. I think he's earned it. I think he has. After great work with Pacific Rim, Crimson Peak.
I love Pacific Rim. Just putting that out there.
It's fun. Guillermo del Toro, I think what he crafted with Shape of Water is a masterpiece. I don't know if did you like it?
I did.
I adore that film. That is a movie that's fucking directed. That one, you know?
That's a good point.
Because it's got everything, visuals and performances too. The fact that you can do both in one movie, tell a thematic visual experience with awesome performances as well, is really hard to get down.
Yeah.
And I think he absolutely nailed it. So rightfully so, I think he should win. But who would I would like to win? I feel like I should say Guillermo del Toro, who I would like to win.
Just made a very convincing
Yeah,
case
I
if that's
did.
what
You
you
know,
were
I'm like,
saying.
he should. Yeah. Who I would like to see at least get a nomination is Jordan Peele for Get Out.
I agree.
I would at least like to see that happen because what he did just surprised the shit out of everyone.
I'm not a horror person, and I liked that
That's
movie
the
because I
thing
was
about
just
that.
like, this is incredibly smart.
It's a clever rewatching experience
Yeah.
that's very much composed. I think it's a film that he should get an Oscar nomination for. Did he get one for Golden Globes?
No, but he did for one of the big critics awards, the Film Critics Association.
No,
or something.
I think he really deserves one. I mean, not that a nomination means everything, but he at least deserves that recognition, you know?
I think he stands a good chance of getting a nomination.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Who do you got? Who you got?
All right, I think you're right. I think this, again, the Golden Globes isn't usually necessarily indicative of the Oscars, but I think the momentum is behind Del Toro. I think that ever since I don't know if it premiered at Toronto Film Festival, but like that's when you started hearing people really talk about it, and then it just had a very slow release, and everybody I knew that saw it was like, you've got to go see this.
Yeah.
It's like this twist on a fairy tale, and like you said, it is stunning to look at. It is so brilliantly shot, and the colors and the concepts, and it's got this fairy tale feel to it, but it's darker and more complex in some ways, but very simple in others. It's just such a beautiful film, and you can tell his acceptance speech at the Golden Globes,
Yeah.
like his love of monsters and everything. It's like that was a labor of love for him, and I think that comes across. And I think
Shows.
I think that the Academy is very likely to acknowledge that. And because it's such a ridiculously open race in terms of just who's even going to get nominated, you know, that any sort of groundswell or feeling of momentum, and I feel like he has it right now. So if he even remotely keeps that, I think that he wins. I mean, I think Greta Gerwig's getting a nomination. I really feel like she's going to.
Especially after the upset.
Well, yeah, I think that there's a lot of up in arms that she hasn't been for like the Golden Globes and whatnot. And I think she fully deserves it because while this isn't A Shape of Water, it's not a director forward film. Those actors had like her direction for them, I think, is what should count in this. I really need her to get a nomination. My pick for who I would want to win, and this is actually really strange, I didn't think I was going to say this, I thought Dunkirk was incredible.
Really?
I loved it. And
You're
this is a
going
very
with Nolan.
I'm going with Nolan.
Yeah.
And I am not a Christopher Nolan devotee. Like I love some of his movies. I like certain other ones. I find him to be a somewhat, and this is not necessarily, I'm going to get this is not a criticism, or this is not a bad thing, but I find him to be a colder kind of filmmaker, more clinical, more story driven than necessarily character driven. And when it's character driven, they tend to be not somebody that I find myself relating to easily. Doesn't mean I don't love his movies, don't enjoy them, I definitely do. Dunkirk does fall into that category. You want to talk about a directed movie?
Yeah.
Like what he had to do to accomplish this film and do it in a way that's unlike other war movies. And I know that's why some people didn't like it, but it's actually the reason why I did, and I love war movies. This isn't Saving Private Ryan. This isn't a character study of a group of men surviving war. This is about thousands upon thousands that did not think they were going to survive this moment. The big picture look at how that went down, and then you just have these snippets with these guys, and you don't know their backstory. This is what all of them were going through, and that's the feeling I got from it. To top that off, the cinematography is second to none. The sound design is second to none. I loved Hans Zimmer's score. I felt like it was movie-going experience experience in IMAX and all of that stuff, it might be my favorite Nolan film. I think it's too early for me to say that. In a few years, when I'm looking back on his filmography, it very well could be.
Wow, you make a great argument.
Thank you.
Because Dunkirk's not even like my top favorite
It's
movies.
not for a lot. For a lot of people, didn't love it, and I totally get that.
But what you said, I was like, you know what? You make a great point about that movie, though. Because in terms of like a directed film, and the
Yes.
performances, even though it's not heavy on character, the performances are still great,
I
and you
agree.
know the actors knew the characters, and that's all that really mattered
Yep.
for what Nolan's film was.
Yeah. Making you think.
All right, here we go. The big one. I mean, I think I know what you want to win.
But here's the thing. I mean, we're both going to predict who we think will win. And I can tell you right now, that's going to change for me every week for the next 6
Yeah,
weeks.
yeah.
This is the craziest year in terms of being so open, and momentum is going to play a massive role. And it's whatever's got the momentum going into those final couple weeks of voting. I'm dying to know what that's going to be. My prediction is not really based on a whole lot because I don't think anybody can make an accurate prediction at this stage.
What do I think will win? Honestly, like you're bringing up your point about Moonlight and La La Land earlier. I have on my phone, Call Me By Your Name is the one I think will win. That seems like an Oscar type of Best Picture winner to me. After watching that movie, I think it's really damn good.
Oh, it's amazing.
And I'm like, yeah, I could see this winning Best Picture. I can. The difference between you and I, while I really do like that movie a hell of a lot, I don't think it's the one I would personally want to see win. You know,
Okay.
but I wouldn't be upset if it won. I'll put it like that.
Okay.
If it won, I'd be like, okay, that's awesome. I think the one I would want to win, I think Logan should get a nomination, but that's not the one I'm choosing. I think the one I would want to win is actually Shape of Water.
It'd be amazing if a genre film like that won.
Yeah, it would be. To me, The Shape of Water is the reason I go to the movies. It's something like that, where it has it all. Where I'm crying, I'm laughing, I'm on edge, I'm swept up. Like, it's all these vast emotions I'm
Aw.
experiencing. And it's imaginative, too.
Oh, very.
Because while I appreciate films like Three Billboards or Call Me By Your Name or Lady Bird, which are very much about life, because I feel like those are just as hard in a lot of ways to put
Sure.
together. Like, I don't know if Guillermo del Toro can do a Lady Bird or a Call Me By Your Name, you know? He probably
It'd
could.
be very interesting.
Yeah. Be very like the antithesis of what Guillermo del Toro does. Shape of Water, you know, the fact that it's so genre based and the fact that it's so imaginative and doesn't lose any of its emotional core and has a lot of important themes in there. Something that I would really like to see win. I would like to see it. But like we were talking about earlier, Calling By Your Name hasn't been like winning a bunch of awards or whatever. But I could definitely see the Oscars going, you know what? Calling By Your Name is the best one. If there's any category the Oscars can surprise you in, it's the Best Picture one. Out of all the categories, that's the one where you're like, whoa. I'm going to have to go Calling By Your Name so that way I'm not surprised when it wins.
I'm just going to start with who I want to win. Then,
Yeah.
because it's clearly that. I would be so happy if the Academy recognized it, like you said, in the way that it recognized Moonlight, which is actually one of the reasons why I kind of wonder if that's the reason it won't. And
I didn't want to say that, but I was thinking that. Yeah.
to that same point, though, in terms of momentum and how Moonlight kind of snuck under the radar under La La Land, I think the same thing is going to happen this year, and I think it's going to happen with Lady Bird. I feel like
I should have gone with Lady Bird.
there's a groundswell of, honestly, like a little bit of backlash and why Greta Gerwig wasn't nominated for the Golden Globes and whatnot, and I feel like that it's politics, but it plays into everything, and then everything that's going on in the industry and with the different movements and female empowerment. I think that's going to play into it. It's a fantastic movie, so that will play into it. And I feel like right now, Three Billboards and Shape of Water are sort of the ones people are talking about. I also think The Post is going to get back into the picture. It is an Oscar movie. It's Spielberg, it's Hanks, it's Streep, and it's good. I am the biggest Meryl Streep fan you will find. She should not have been nominated for Florence Foster Jenkins. I would be very happy if she was nominated for this.
Okay.
I thought that it's a very good movie. It's so topical is my point as to why I think it'll get back into the conversation. I think there's a lot of players, and whereas last year was just two, I think all of these will sort of like have their upturns and be like, oh, that's the front runner, and then next week it'll be, oh, this is the front runner. But I think when the dust clears, my gut's telling me that it's going to be Lady Bird on top.
Rachel, I don't know if you can hear the comments on this video right now, but they're all going, wow, Greg made all the right predictions. Greg is the one
I'm
who
going to screenshot
really
some of these
knows.
comments to prove that this is not what's
I
happening.
am blocking your number. Get ready to feel embarrassed by the comments that are like, Rachel's guesses are way
right,
off. She
bring 'em,
clearly
guys.
doesn't know how the Oscars work at all. Who do you think will be right, me or Rachel? I have sat here next to Rachel and I have gone, I think Rachel's right on every single one of them. That's why I made sure to go first. Because I was like, I have a strong feeling. I have a strong feeling anything you say, I'm going to be like, yeah, she makes a great point about that because I don't really study the Oscars. Rachel, seriously, thank you for being here. You have made this video what it is, so thank you for being here. Guys, you can follow Rachel Cushing on Twitter at twitter.com/Rachel J. Cushing. Follow her immediately. Link in the description box. I know you have a Twitter, you creep. Follow her. Sean, I want as many creepy followers to follow you as possible.
Gee,
I
thanks.
know that's the target market you're
Of
looking
course.
for.
That's what we're all going for.
If you're a creep, subscribe to The Real Rejects. Click that notification bell to get creeped out every time we're up on videos.
Creepy Oscar videos.
Become a Patreon eject today. Patreon's fun. It's like a second channel. Good day, mate.